My name is Risa Steinecke, and I'll be doing my presentation over the Child Abuse and Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974. What is CAPTA? It was sponsored by Richard Nixon and his successor, Gerald Ford. CAPTA stands for Child Abuse and Prevention and Treatment Act. It is the legislation that provided federal funds to states to develop reporting systems for investigations of abuse and neglect. This act was historical because it was the first time attention was brought to the need for protective services. The original legislation. The main goals were prevention, how can abuse be prevented, identification, what are the signs of abuse, and the treatment, on how to improve treatment for victims. The act also created two types of grant programs. It created the federal, which is the basic grants to states to support new prevention, assessment, investigation, prosecution, and treatment activities, and the demonstration, which is grants to public agencies and nonprofit organizations, including the Indian tribes and tribal organizations, to pilot and test innovation and the train state personnel. The revised legislation. CAPTA Reauthorization Act of 2010. It authorized grants to states to increase adoption of foster care children if grantees could describe how they plan to improve the placement rate of children into permanent homes, intend to improve the placement of older children, minority children, and children with special needs, will evaluate program effectiveness, and how they will coordinate activities and other service providers. What problems was CAPTA designed to correct? CAPTA shaped the way for who becomes responsible for child abuse. The main issue the policy fixed was the action taken on by those other than the parents. So before CAPTA was put in place, the government really didn't intervene. It was all just kind of like, home discipline, as they would call it. And the policy allowed for states funding so interventions could be made when there was evidence of neglect, physical or sexual abuse. It's really telling that there was nothing in place for children before the 1970s, because this is a long line of abuse that went undetected. Statistics of child abuse. There are 700,000 children reported to be abused throughout the United States each year. Although there are 700,000 confirmed cases of abuse each year, CPS intervenes with about 3.4 million families for reported abuse. So this would mean more so they take calls and they take, reports, and sometimes stuff gets done if there is, enough help on hand, or, sometimes things fall through the cracks, which is actually really sad. Texas alone has 65,000 cases of confirmed child abuse each year. Although poverty creates a higher risk factor for the likelihood of abuse, it is not a cause. Abuse can be found in any community throughout the board. The policy allows for the state to intervene and find adequate care for these children. If there was no solution to the policy, or even if the policy received less funding, more children could be at risk for staying in abusive and neglectful homes. The main goals of CAPTA would appear to be to increase identification, reporting, and investigation of abuse to further prevent the child from further harm, train caseworkers on how to properly identify and report abuse, and implement laws to further protect children from being harmed. So, personally, I think the most important is training caseworkers on how to properly identify abuse, because the more they're able to see what exactly is going on, then they will be more likely to get the child the proper help that they need, instead of, unfortunate cases of the children who go undetected. The benefits of CAPTA would be mandated funding for child protective programs, removing children from inadequate care, and providing them proper treatment to those who have already been abused. And then that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching.